Good evening, everybody. This is Finance Committee meeting through Zoom once again, since we cannot meet in public yet. This meeting is, there'll be a live video and audio of the meeting, which will be aired on Comcast Local Channel 18. A recording of the meeting will also be posted on the Town of Acushnet YouTube channel.
Would be, but it'd be down here.
Do I have a motion to open?
Motion to open.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, meeting is open. All right, on tonight's agenda, the first thing we'll cover is the reserve fund transfer from the building department. There is a request from the building department for the amount of $5,000. And this is requested for the to replace a lawnmower that is used to take care of most of the town properties.
I take it the old one is terrible.
That's all I have for details on the transfer.
Yeah, so I'll jump in. This is the lawnmower. Jim manages the young boys who run our custodial facilities. They end up mowing the majority of the town property. I know Parks just recently got a new mower as well. They do a lot of work at the fields, but basically all of the other town-owned property is mowed with this lawnmower. One of the students that Jim has on staff, he's in the VOC program. He's really good at figuring out problems with the lawnmowers, and he worked all around it and just could not find a way to fix it, to salvage this mower. So they did have to go out to get a new mower, and this was the cheapest price they could get for a mower that could manage all the lawn that they're mowing. So
How old was the old one?
it was, I'm not sure the date, it was really old. It had been passed through Parks already and handed down from Parks to Jim and his kids. So it was very old.
Okay. I'll make a motion if we don't have one. I don't remember.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes without opposition. Okay, next on the agenda tonight is discussion of the articles. So I guess we'll go through these, starting with the first one, Julie.
The only one, this is kind of rushed in a sense, having the town meeting almost 2 weeks from now. So the Board of Selectmen actually met this morning to vote on the warrant. And now you guys are voting and we're gonna have it published by Friday. So when the Selectmen went through the articles this morning, there is one that they pulled, which is number 4 on your list, which was the bylaw amendment. And they just, they had some discussion about it and they felt that a bylaw change without enough time to really vet through everything wasn't appropriate. So they pulled that one. All of the other ones are on there. There are 2 that the amounts were adjusted, but I'll let you know when we get to them. But yeah, I think otherwise let's just go through them one by one. And if there are questions, we can talk about them.
Yeah, that
Okay.
proposed bylaw, excuse Mr. Chair, for a minute, that proposed bylaw, wouldn't it have had gone to the bylaw review committee first before it went to the selectmen?
Yeah, that's what it really should go through that process. The selectmen originally put it on the draft list because from our understanding, it's clarifying a bylaw where there's some contradiction. But yeah, after discussing it today and not having the bylaw review committee had a chance to review it, they felt that it just wasn't appropriate to keep on with this short amount of time. So I'm told.
You all set with that, John?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so Julie, I'm gonna read the articles as they're written. So for anybody out there who's listening, they can hear what the article is about, and then we can discuss it right after. How's that sound?
Perfect.
Okay. All right. So Article number 1, to see if the town will vote to appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds an amount of money to be expended under the direction of the school committee for the accelerated repair project at the Acushnet Elementary School for partial replacement of the existing roof, which the proposed repair project would materially extend the useful life of the school and preserve an asset that is capable of supporting the required educational program, and for which the town may be eligible for a school construction grant from the Massachusetts School Building Authority. The town acknowledges that the MSBA's grant program is a non-entitlement discretionary program based on need, as determined by the MSBA, and any project costs the town incurs in excess of any grant that may be approved by and received from the MSBA shall be the sole responsibility of the town. Any grant that the town may receive from the MSBA for the project shall not exceed the lesser of 57 74/100% of eligible approved cost as determined by the MSBA, or the total maximum grant amount determined by the MSBA. So Julie, we know this is obviously for the roof repair. Do we have any idea on what the cost is?
Yeah.
So the total cost, and it's going to be in the motion for this article, is about 2.5 million. We have to borrow, or we have to authorize borrowing for the full amount, because MSBA is a reimbursable grant. So the plan would be we would do a ban, which is a temporary borrowing, for the full amount, the 2.5 million. As we pay for costs, MSBA will reimburse us, and the 57.74%, they'll reimburse us that percentage of eligible costs. And when the project is complete, whatever amount is left, which will be a little bit, it'll be close to 1.2 million, we'll be able to turn around and bond for that full amount. But in the motion, we will have to authorize borrowing for the full amount initially, so that we can take out a ban for that.
How long will the bond be?
Our plan is to do a 15-year bond. And when we did the numbers preliminarily a few months ago, it should come out to about $85,000 a year to pay for the bond over 15 years. The anticipation is to use the solar capital expense fund, because right now the amount that we have of current solar properties will cover the $85,000. And we know that there are a lot of other solar projects that are planned to come on board. So the funding in that account should be more than enough to cover the amount of the bond over the 15 years. And it won't be on the tax levy. So that was a big thing for the selectmen, to try to keep it off the tax levy.
So do we know if the roof at the elementary school, as the situation been getting worse with like leaking and such?
The school, when they were on with the Board of Selectmen earlier today, and they do apologize for not being able to make it. They had some prior commitments tonight. But they were kind of laughing, like, we'll have to see what the roof looks like when we go back, because the rain had just started. So I mean, they're managing it constantly. They have money in an article right now to maintain, and this project, if it's approved, it wouldn't be started until the summer. So they're managing it right now, but it's definitely in need of a full repair. it's very old. I think it's 50 years old.
Julie, this is only a partial repair, not
Yep.
the full roof.
That's right. Yep. So there was a part of the roof that I think had been repaired more recently.
That's what I thought. A few years back, we repaired part of the roof.
Yeah. So in order to qualify for MSBA funding, it has to be over a certain age. And so the part that we're replacing was over 50 years, but the other, like the rest of the roof, I think is like 3 years out for meeting the threshold. And we've done smaller repairs, but this would be a full repair of the roof, a full replacement of the roof, but just a section of the total roof at the elementary school. So yeah.
So in about three more years, we'll have to repair most likely the other half.
Yeah.
The other portion.
Yeah.
How much of the roof is covered, Julie? Do you know?
I think it's like 60%.
Is there any question or about the MSBA in terms of it's a discretionary program? I mean, is this something that, how well do we know if they're going to reimburse it, and if they do, what the timing of that? When would that be? How long does this petition wait?
So MSBA, we've already been through the whole ringer with MSBA. They have a year-long process, and this is the language that they make us use for the article, and our attorneys also approved it, but basically it's kind of covering themselves, but they've already approved us. We've gone through the process. We've had a designer. All of the design work has been approved by MSBA. They've looked at all the costs, and in August, I think it was August 26th, they had a final vote, and Acushnet was approved to get the reimbursement. So there should be no retraction. I don't think I've ever heard of MSBA retracting after they've approved a project.
Thank you.
So, but in terms of getting the money, like that, once the project starts in the summer and next summer, hopefully, as we incur costs, we'll have to pay for them using the band money that we got, and we'll then turn around to MSBA and show them, these are the invoices that we paid, proof of payment, and then they'll reimburse us. So it'll be kind of a fun accounting process of making payments and reimbursing ourselves, and then at the end, when we have a final total, we'll get to go out to bond. So
Okay, thanks, Julie.
yeah.
Anybody else have any questions or just further discussion? Actually, I've noticed Gail Rodriguez is here, right?
Yes,
Gail, are you back on the committee?
I'm back.
Well, I wasn't sure. I was like, all right, so Gail's here. I'm like, all right, so welcome back on the finance
Thank you.
committee.
Yeah,
All
Welcome
right.
back.
Gail, it's deja vu.
yeah,
Okay.
really. Hi, John.
All right, so you're back. You're a member. All right, very good.
Yeah, this is my first meeting, actually, so.
Okay.
She came on,
All right.
she came on the school committee, on the finance committee when I was chair. So
Right.
So did I.
Back in the day.
Yeah,
Oh, I don't
Gail
wanna
was
remember
Gail
that
was here when
one,
I
but-
started. All right, so if there's no further discussion on this article, does everybody want to vote on the articles as we go through each one? Or do you want to go through them all and then go back and vote on them?
I'm good one at a time.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Vote
Yes.
each one as we go through it?
Yeah.
Okay.
You just have to do the roll call vote. That's the only pain, I think, on Zoom.
Okay, yeah, so we have to go through each person individually. Okay, so we'll put this through a vote. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Okay.
Second.
Is there a second? There was a second?
Yeah, a number of us did it.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so I guess I'll go, I'm yes.
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 We should actually say our names and
Okay.
then the yes. So Ron Melbourne, yes.
Bob Ferrera, yes.
Yes. Oh, excuse me.
Gail
Mike
is
Bush.
yes.
Delgado, yes.
Mike Boucher, yes.
Bob St. Jean, yes.
Okay, motion passes without opposition. Okay, on to Article number 2. Article number 2 states to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds or otherwise provide a sum of $15,750 for the purpose of funding the town planner to prepare the preliminary components and framework of the 2021 through 2031 Town of Acushnet Master Plan, including concept planning for the Slocum Street corridor, or to take any other action relative thereto.
I really, due to a lot of, the conditions that we're now faced with I can see a need for this master plan even more than I did, say, 3 months ago. So the changing housing market is going to put some great demands on town services and available land that we have. So I think that, so this is probably cries out for immediate implementation if we can.
Julie, I have a question. Does not having a master plan affect the town's bond rating or affect our ability to get any grant monies?
Not that I know of, would it impact it negatively? It's obviously a positive. When we look at those things, having a master plan, it's very highly looked upon, but I don't know that they would deduct points if
Okay.
we didn't have it updated.
Okay. I'm assuming this would be funded out of free cash.
Yes, so this would be free cash.
Okay.
Mike, this is Gail. Does anyone know what this 15,750 is buying exactly?
Julie, you want to touch base?
So this is an amount that would be paid to our town planner in order to update the master plan. So this morning with the Board of Selectmen, he went through, it'll be 2 phases. It'll take about 2 years for him to complete the master plan in its entirety. Phase 1 he had listed is really setting up the vision, the goals, land use and housing elements, and doing extensive data collection. So that would be the first year, and the $15,750 would be his compensation for doing that phase of the work.
So there will be more money coming for him to finish.
Yes,
Is he not an employee?
he is an employee of the town.
Julie, I'm 100% for the master plan, but deadly against the Slocum Street corridor. I think that's a waste of money, and the people that own the land down there definitely don't want to sell it. I can't see that. It's ridiculous to route the trucks all the way down there to get onto the street down the end. That's ridiculous.
But Mr. Chair,
Yes.
passing this article does not necessarily that we approve of that Slocum Street.
Well, that's what I said. John, I just said that. I'm for the town planner.
Right.
For the
Right, but
plan.
like I said, we no way are we approving in any way, of that Slocum Street. It's just maybe mentioned that he's going to look at the feasibility.
He's been doing it for 3 years now, 3 or 4 years now.
Yeah. So I mean, I agreed. The article, at least as it was approved by the selectmen, it does include that phrase for the Slocum Street corridor, but that doesn't mean it'll be ultimately part of the plan. And I think it's a good time to mention too, and I haven't been through a master plan update myself, but I understand that a master plan, there's a lot of work done by not just the planner, by the community as a whole, to make the plan and to make it how they want it. So I'd encourage you and anyone else who's interested, if we have this approved and we're going through the process, to join the planning committee that's involved in the master plan. They bring up all the issues, they discuss them, they look at them, and ultimately they help to construct the final master plan. So I'm sure it's something that's been talked about. I'm sure it'll be considered, but as John said, whether it's ultimately included in there, that'll be up to the group as they work through it.
Are there any benchmarks as to progress over the 12 months? So I had a side discussion after our meeting this morning that we would have to build that because it's not something that you can just throw $15,000 and good luck to you. We would absolutely be setting something up. I don't have it now, and again, it's hard. This all came on really quick. We planned the town meeting for MSBA and we threw up the opportunity for other people to add articles, and time is obviously not on our side. So we will absolutely be coming up with some type of agreement that lists, these are the components, these are the responsibilities for the first year for the $15,750, and include benchmarks, and obviously compensation would be aligned with the work that's completed. So we'll make sure we have that in place. I don't have it yet, but we'll make sure we have that in place before any kind of payment is done. Thank you.
Yep.
Julie, can I ask something? Is there a way you can kind of, as we're going through here, it's hard for me to understand exactly, and maybe somewhat because I'm not an expert here on town finances yet. But there's a lot of articles in here looking for money, and then there's different places it seems like it's being transferred from, and some of it for free cash and other things. I guess it's hard for me to have a comfort level going through here without knowing. Okay, after we go in and we approve all of these articles and we look back, and is there enough money to pay for all of this stuff when we add all this up? I feel like we have to balance some things, or what's more important than something else perhaps, or is there just going to be enough cash at the end how tight is this? I don't have a good feel for, where we're going with each article as compared to the other articles and the need and the money that's actually available.
Yeah.
Any
So
kind of framework you can apply?
yeah, so I do have a document now. I wish I'll see if I can send it to you guys, or if I send it to Kathy, maybe she can send it out during the meeting if you're at your computer and you have access to your email. So we do have a spreadsheet that shows all of the sources of funds. I know I put it at the top of the draft articles so you could see the available funding, but this spreadsheet would then show how much is coming from each bucket to show that at the end of the day, we do have enough to cover. Initially, if you look at the articles that you've received, there isn't enough money in free cash to cover them. And so the selectmen earlier today, they did make changes on 2 of the articles to lower the amounts so that we would have enough free cash to balance with what we have available. So I'll try to send this to you now so that you guys can get it in the background. But yeah, I do have it. The articles as adapted with those 2 are enough to cover all of the funding that we have.
Okay, because when I looked at it briefly the other day, I had over $1 million in all of these things, and you're right, there's only like 600,000 in free cash. So I was wondering how we were evaluating.
Yeah.
It's not all going to come out of free cash, correct, Julie?
No, it's not. No.
There's some of the monies will come from the golf fund, the water surplus fund. When we get to those articles, I think you'll see that. But Ron, I do have some concerns as well with some of the bigger items that we're going to get to, in a little bit. So I think we'll touch base on that in a little bit.
Okay.
Any other discussion on Article 2?
I guess I just have one more question, and this work falls outside
of this employee's job responsibilities? I guess I'm just confused about why he's getting additional money. That's all.
So this was a long conversation, if you watch the selectmen's meeting from this morning. And essentially what it comes down to is the employee is a part-time employee. And so this would be outside. I mean, this is a massive project. It's a 2-year project. So the amount of work that's involved in the master plan is outside the regular duties for this employee, who's a part-time employee.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Julie,
welcome.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
to Julie,
Yep.
if we chose a private consultant to do this, how much more money would it cost to do, rather than having an in-house person?
When we looked at this in the spring, and in the spring we were considering it at as one whole phase, so one lump sum. And I believe at the time the amount for the employee was $26,000 total for the whole thing. So I would assume that when the second phase comes, it'll be closer to $10,000, so it'll equal that same amount. But at the time, the estimates that I heard from Serped, who does do master planning for a lot of towns, was between $60,000 and $120,000, depending on the size of the community and the needs. So we're definitely saving money doing it in-house. But I mean, unfortunately, it's just not a cheap thing.
Yeah, when we had the discussion, preliminary discussion a few months ago, I think, it was concluded that we were getting quite a bargain. And
Yes.
if I remember the discussion correctly.
He gets us quite a bit of grant money also to help the town out. I mean, he's worth every penny we pay him, that's for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that, Bob, and I think it kind of sets up a good vision for the town, for the next 10 years. Because if we don't have a plan, then, we're trying to do things on the fly. I think it's much better to have
Oh, definitely.
something in place. So I agree with that.
Okay, I mean, I'm certainly willing to make a motion that we approve Article 2.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I'm in favor. Mike Boucher.
Gail votes yes.
It was yes.
Ron Melbourne, yes.
But for yes.
We do. John Howcroft, yes.
Bob Jean, yes.
Okay, motion passes without opposition. Okay, on to Article 3, to see if the town will vote to transfer from the Capital Expenditure Fund a sum of $15,000 for the purpose of vehicle refurbishments for the fire/EMS vehicle fleet, or to take any other action relative thereto.
Julie, do you know what this covers?
I think he has multiple vehicles that have been in need of repair. He had an article at our last town meeting for $35,000, and that's nearly all spent, but there is a little bit of work left to do. The chief didn't elaborate a lot on it today, but he does have backup for, I think, estimates for the vehicles for the work that needs to be done. So I can definitely get that from him.
Those ambulances in particular are constantly making runs. And I think some of the maintenance, some of this money is going for maintenance of those ambulances.
Mm-hmm.
Them ambulances pay for themselves with the money they receive for the duties they do.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, Mike Boucher is in favor.
Gail Rodriguez, yes.
Bob Ferrer, yes.
Ron Melbourne, yes.
Delgado's yes.
John Howcroft, yes.
Bob St. Jean, yes.
Okay, motion passes without opposition. Okay, as
I'm
previously
sorry,
mentioned.
Julie, I'm sorry, Mike,
Oh, I'm sorry.
that's coming out of free cash,
That's coming out of the capital expense funds.
that's capital expense, thank you.
Yep. And Kathy, I just sent an email to you with the spreadsheet. So if you can forward it to everyone in the meantime, at
Okay,
least
sure.
some of you will. Thank you.
Okay, so we're on to Article 5, since Article 4 was pulled by the Board of Selectmen. Article 5, to see if the town will vote to transfer from the Water Special Revenue Fund surplus a sum of $71,500 to complete a risk and resilience assessment and an emergency response plan required to be filled with the EPA before June 30th, 2021, or to take any other action relative thereto. So Julie, this sounds like this is something that we have no choice, we have to do.
Yeah, and I'm so grateful Kathy Silva from the DPW is here. So who better than the expert to answer some of your questions on this? Kathy will be able to take right over.
Hi, everybody. I know I haven't met most of you. I'm Kathy Silver. I work for Dan at the DPW, and he couldn't make it tonight, so I'm going to fill in for him. The EPA is requiring, we do a lot of requirements with the DEP. This is the first time we have to work with the EPA. So this is called a risk and resiliency plan that we have to file by June 30th of 2021. And then within 6 months, we have to file an emergency response plan, basically to the risk and resiliency plan. The risk and resiliency plan has 9 parts that we have to look at. A lot of it is for natural hazards, financial, if the town has financial problems, how are we going to work with the water? Our biggest one is New Bedford is where we get our water from. So what would happen if something happened in New Bedford? What's our backup plan? So we just need to have something in place with the EPA on all of these things. It's good for 5 years once we certify. And as I told the select board, once we have a good plan and I work with the engineering group on this, in 5 years from now, I should be able to rewrite it and update it as we go along. So hopefully this plan will last a good 15 to 20 years.
Kathy, do you think the 71,000 will cover everything, or?
Yes, Woodward and Curran is the one that gave us the proposal. They're going to do the risk and resiliency, going to do the EPA plan, and then they're actually going to do some training with the DPW, because part of the DEP's requirements is that we also need the emergency response plan, but we need to have training with it. So they're going to help us cover EPA and DEP at the same time. It covers everything, which is great.
Perfect.
You have a question, Bob?
Which Bob?
St. Jean.
Okay.
No, I don't.
Okay. Kathy, I believe this is the first time we've been required to do this for the town, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes, this is the first time. And then once we do this, it'll be every 5 years after this.
Okay. What initiated this project?
So the biggest thing is natural hazards and actually human, I guess, when human terrorists, I guess, because they're concerned of, are we protected if, something bad happens with a flood or a natural hazard, but also if something happens, if somebody dumps something into
the
our
water source.
Exactly. So the EPA wants to make sure that we have a plan to deal with all of this if it happens. God forbid, hopefully it won't happen. But
Right.
what we do if it did happen.
Okay, makes sense.
No, in other words, this is an insurance policy we hope we never use.
Exactly.
Got it.
I'll make a motion, we accept.
Second motion.
Okay, I am in favor. Mike Boucher.
Sue Delgado,
Bob
yes.
St. Jean, yes.
Ron
Gail
Milburn,
Rodriguez, yes.
Bob Ferrer, yes.
John Howcroft, yes.
And Ron, did Ron, are you in favor?
Yeah, I said yes. I got dogs that were going crazy.
Oh, okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure everybody answered.
How to mute, but
Okay.
yes.
All right. So I believe the motion passes without opposition. Okay. On to Article 6. To see if the town will vote to transfer from the school budget to the sewer surplus account the sum of $110,000 for reimbursement for the school sewer pump, or to take any other action relative thereto. This is the amount removed from the sewer surplus to purchase the pump for the school as shown in Article 15 of the annual town warrant dated June 5th, 2017, and has now been determined to be unusable for any other residents' sewer needs. This article will need to be modified to reflect the fact that the school budget is not an available source of funds. It will need to be pulled from free cash.
Just so you know, this, obviously you guys all got the initial draft list of articles. I'm working with town council to update them. And that was my note for those that we can't pull from the school budget. We'll be pulling this from free cash. The school did turn back some money at the end of the year last year, so that's generated free cash, and that's how we're getting them to, quote unquote, pay it back. And just another note that once I have the final version of the warrant with the changes from town council, there are slight wording changes. I'll make sure you guys, I'll get an updated copy, but this was the original draft that came out.
So, okay, Julie, just to make sure, because the brain is not working very well tonight. So the school committee got $110,000 from the sewer surplus account back in 2017.
Yes. The $110,000 was appropriated at town meeting from the sewer, and it was used for the sewer pump station. So the sewer contributed $110,000, and then the school, from their budget, they contributed $100,000 for the total project. At the time, the sewer, the DPW was informed by the consultant that repairing or replacing the sewer pump station would lead to sewer availability for other residents. So that's why sewer contributed, because they figured, this was going to be something that would be valuable to them and to their users going forward as well. So they paid a portion. And since then, and Kathy, correct me if I'm wrong, but since then they've determined that that was an error. There is no availability for anyone else to use the pump station to gain access to the sewer from the school. And so that's why they're looking for their contribution to be returned.
Got it. So the sewer for the sewer pump for the school cost us $210,000.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Okay, Mike Boucher is a yes.
Gail Rodriguez, yes.
Bob Furry, yes.
Ron Melbourne, yes.
Sue Delgado's yes.
Bob St. Jean, yes.
John Howcroft, yes, I think.
Yes, I think that's everybody. All right, so the motion passes without opposition. Okay, on to Article number 7. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds the sum of $275,000 for the purpose of purchasing a John Deere 544 loader for use within the Department of Public Works, or to take any other action relative thereto.
This would be coming from free cash.
All right, so Julie, I have a question. This is obviously a big ticket purchase. How urgent of a need is this?
I'll let Kathy speak to this. I know it's urgent. I know it's important. It's very important.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the best I can because Dan was actually dealing with this one. So this is a loader that was from 2002. And Dan was worried that it wasn't gonna make it through last winter. And we worked out great because we didn't have a winter, which was great. But he's so worried that if we get hit with a blizzard, this is one of their main machines that they use to move snow. I mean, they use this year round, but this is one of the ones they use all winter long to get snow moved all around. So he's concerned that it won't make it through the winter. And if it dies, we're out of luck. So, I mean, he said, could it hold together till next year? Possibly. He doesn't want to take the chance.
What's the typical useful life of one of these vehicles, Kathy?
Well, this one's already 18 years old. So I'd say it's 3 years past its due date.
Fine. Okay.
And I'll add to, Dan brought this up earlier, that they would keep the old
Yes,
loader and keep it at the recycling center, right, Kathy?
correct. Yes.
So to kind of keep that in use and managing some of the dirtier work so that the new loader wouldn't have to be bogged down with the recycling stuff, but it would still be in use. And, you know, like that, it's one of those, I think Dan referred to it as like the main lifeblood of the town. So you
Yes,
can't do
yes.
anything without, you can't do anything without it. So could it survive another year? Maybe, but if it died, it would really, really hurt the town. And obviously it's expensive to replace. So it would take a town meeting appropriation to replace at that point.
Would bonding for 5 years be a better better in financing it, or better to go with the straight 200 and some odd $1,000?
So this was discussed earlier today as well. It could be financed. My only comment would be it would require a debt exclusion, and we would need to have a ballot in order to approve a debt exclusion. We have the borrowing for MSBA on here, and it's a large amount, but our plan isn't to include it as a debt exclusion. Our plan is to use the capital expense fund to cover the amount. We don't have a plan in place if we were to borrow for this. So if we had to do a debt exclusion, we wouldn't have enough time to do that.
Thank you.
Can they lease equipment like that?
Well, I guess we could lease equipment. I just think in the long run, it would be more expensive.
Probably, yeah, you're right, probably right, yeah.
Yeah, because, you know, Dan's great at fixing and holding things together.
Yeah, he sure is, yeah.
It's much more expensive to lease.
Okay,
Yes.
that answers my question.
I make a motion to approve.
Second,
I have one more question for Julie. Julie, I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but if we fund whatever articles we have in front of us with free cash, what's the balance going to be left in free cash?
Yeah. We're gonna use all of the free cash that we have available.
So that amount that's listed on here, 587,999, that whole amount will be used to fund whatever's in front of us here.
That's correct.
Okay.
So where's our safety money if something happens, Julie?
So this money is the free cash that was left over from last year. This is part of the certification for FY20. You remember we carried it forward because we weren't sure about the town's economic status for FY21. And as of right now for FY21, the state has said that they're level funding. So far they have level funded payments to us. They still haven't voted a final budget, but the new budget, I forget the House maybe, just approved a budget and they've level funded. It's still going through all of the different groups that vote on the budget before it becomes finalized, but they have essentially guaranteed to the towns that they'll level fund for this year. So we feel a bit more comfortable using this money, and then we would still have all of the free cash that will be certified for FY21. It's just like any other year, essentially. But yeah, I mean, it is still a consideration if we want to use this up in full or not. I just think, at least for FY21, as it stands right now, we should manage this year fine. The question mark is still now FY22.
So for fiscal year 21, we had assumed some drop in state aid, right? Like 5,
Yeah.
10, I don't remember.
We did 5% cut.
We did a 5% cut, okay. And so it's into how much money? Because presumably that should,
Yeah, so it was a little over 400,000. So as long as we get the money from the state as planned, we should have a surplus of about $400,000, assuming we receive all of our other local aid. You know, we have a decent buffer in those revenue sources as well. So even with the decline, I know, you know, the selectmen recently approved waiving the fees for the alcohol licenses this year. I think it amounts to about $13,000 in local receipts that they've waived for the restaurants in Acushnet, knowing that they've taken a hit this year as an act of good faith for them. So yeah, there are certainly other revenues that will be shortened or reduced this year, but I think we have enough of a buffer that we should end up with a surplus if the state gives us the level funding. And I'll also add, when we reached out to everyone to ask for articles for town meeting, we really pushed everyone that these should be essential. So if you know, you've looked through these articles as we go through them, these are all essential. You know, even the slower that we've talked about, it's an important thing. Obviously, it's up to the town to vote whether they want to use the money that could be used on something else on this, but it was brought forward because we felt there was an emergency need for it. As you know, same for a lot of these other items that are on here. So these should be high necessities for the town to be considered. We're not just, you know, frivolously spending is the idea behind this town meeting.
To go back to Kathy from the DPW. So if something happened to the existing loader that we have, Dan's of the opinion that it could not be fixed?
Correct. He's fixed it a few years now. It's been band-aided together for 2 or 3 years. He's been nervous for a few years, so he's a little worried, but it's still workable, which is good. You know, he said maybe it will make it through the winter. He can't promise it this year. The good thing is, like Julie said, we'll use it as a backup at the recycling center. And when it is to a point where we can't use it anymore, then he can use it for the parts for the new loader, you know, when that starts to fall apart. You know, Dan tries to hold everything together as long as he can.
No, I know he does a really good job.
Yeah.
So without that piece of equipment, we couldn't do adequate snow removal during the course of the winter?
We could not. That's the main equipment, the DPW. Year round, we use the loader, but that would be scary in the winter if we had a blizzard.
Okay.
But yeah.
I mean, I think the only other option would be to, if we don't get it and it falls apart, we lease it for a year and then get it next year. But leasing is a lot more expensive, so I'm not sure that you know, that's kicking the can. I'm not sure we're at the point that we kick the can.
Yeah, I think if we didn't get the loader this year and it did break, we'd either have to lease it or we'd have to hire one of our snowplow drivers that hopefully has one, that we'd have to pay them to use their loader, and I don't know what that would cost.
And I imagine this isn't the type of equipment you can get at the last minute,
No.
right? There's like a lead time.
Right, exactly.
Do you know how
Yes.
long?
I don't. I'm sorry, I don't know that information.
I can imagine in a blizzard though, there are probably a lot of other towns that might be looking for.
True.
They're using it, so it would probably be harder to get one in an emergency situation.
And if the forecasters are correct, we're going to have a wet, snowy winter. That's what I've heard and read.
Did we have a motion yet? I can't remember.
No.
You did.
I'll make a motion. Oh, we do have a motion?
Yes.
Yeah, I made the
Oh, we
motion.
do?
Bob St. Jean made the motion.
We have a second?
I believe I seconded it.
Okay.
Okay. Who wants to go first?
Ron Melbourne, I vote yes.
John
Well-
Howcroft, I vote yes.
Bob St. Jean, yes.
Gail Rodriguez, yes.
For yes.
Sue Delgado, yes.
Mike Boucher, yes. Is that everybody? I think that's everybody, correct?
Good.
Okay, motion passes without opposition. On to number 8, to see if the town will vote to transfer from the Water Special Revenue Fund surplus the sum of $150,000 to replace the water pipeline on Nye Avenue or take any other action relative thereto. So I would imagine this is an urgent need, Julie.
I'll let Kathy, you up to date on this one?
Oh, Kathy, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so let me try to explain this one. So this is actually something that the select board asked Dan to put on because this is something we looked into. All of this pipe on this street was put in 1917. So when we did, when we did our water study, we know what all the pipes are, how old they are. At some point, we're going to have to start replacing them. When we went to look at what it would be to hire out to do this versus having Dan's group do this, Dan's group could do it a lot cheaper. The only thing is we have to make sure that Dan's group can do it. So this is kind of like going to be a test to see how it would work with the DPW replacing the piping as we go. It's something we probably should do every year, trying to replace at least 1 or 2 lines that are out there because this is one of the oldest, 1917, 1916. Those ones we have like 2 or 3 that are that old. They shouldn't be more than 100 years old. You know, that makes you nervous. You're going to start to have water breaks. So really more of a test. We want to know in our water plan, can Dan's group do it? If yes, it's going to save a lot of money. If no, we have to look at the plan and say, well, how much is it going to cost to hire it out? And that's going to be a whole different ballgame because it's going to be a lot more expensive. So this is a kind of a test for Dan's group to see if they can do it in the spring and save the town a lot of money. And this is the oldest line, so that's why we did this one first.
Makes sense.
And I'll add to, I know that the water department has been working to build up a surplus. Water's done a great job. You know, I think they have a little over or close to over $1 million in their surplus for the end of the year last year, which is exactly what you want to use with this money. You know, you build it up so that you have enough in reserves so that you can take it and then start making, you know, the important capital changes that are needed for the department without giving a hit to the water users. So this is somewhat what they have planned for all these years. And like Kathy said, you know, you anticipate keeping that surplus at a healthy level so that every year or every couple of years you can make the updates that are needed, again, without giving a hit to those users.
I have a question for Kathy. So going back to the previous article with the loader for $275,000, is that something that Dan would be able to actually use in a project like this?
He might be able to use the loader. I'm not sure what equipment.
Or would he need a piece of equipment like that to complete a project like this?
My thought is probably because it's the one that carries the heaviest equipment, so he'd have to do things. So it would probably need to be used in the water department.
Kathy, do you have an estimate of how many the pipelines we're going to need to replace? How many are really old that need replacing? Just for a sense of magnitude.
Right, on top of my I'm going to guess, I'm not in the office with my list right now, but I say that there's at least 10 that are between 1916, 17 timeframe to like 1925. So there's at least 10 that we need to start looking at.
Thank you.
So potentially there's a big savings with having Dan be able to do these kind of projects.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Huge savings, yes.
What's Dan's retirement plan? We need to work within Dan's retirement plan.
I ask him that all the time. He's not thinking anytime soon, so that's a good thing.
Fabulous, okay. Let us know, Kathy, when that changes.
Okay.
Does anybody have any other questions or you want to pass a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it. Okay, I'll go first. Mike Boucher, I'm a yes.
Ron
Bob
Melbourne,
St. Jean, yes.
Ron Melbourne, yes.
Gail Rodriguez, yes.
Bob Furry, yes.
John Howcroft, yes.
And Sue Delgado's yes.
Okay, motion passes without opposition. Okay, on to Article number 9. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds the sum of $60,000 for the purpose of purchasing a 2021 Chevrolet full-size K1500 Silverado pickup truck with commercial utility cap for the use of the animal control officer or to take any other action relative thereto.
Julie, do we know what this is replacing? How old the current vehicle is? What's the condition?
Yep, and actually Becky's on the line here too, so she can answer a lot of that. I know that I believe the vehicle she has currently is a 2013. And the main issue, and I'll let Becky take over, is the current vehicle is a 2-wheel drive, and she is just constantly going off-road to different locations, and a 2-wheel drive vehicle has just been a huge detriment for her. Becky, I'll let you expand. I don't want to take over for you, but you're the best person to explain it.
Thank you, Julie. Hi, everyone. How are you doing tonight?
Hi.
Yeah, so the van, more and more animal control departments are going to 4-wheel drive vehicles, and especially where we live in a rural town, and I cover both Rochester and Acushnet, there have been more times than none when the weather is the slightest increment, my van is out of control. Last year, I was on an emergency in Rochester, and I got into the place just fine, but I could not get out. And I had to have a tow come down at 10 o'clock at night to tow me out of the situation that I was in. We have a lot of streets and roads in Acushnet that have the slightest hill, and I have gotten stuck more times than I can say. I do barn inspections, I'm responsible for those, and obviously my farms have long roads and they're off the road. And again, the slightest snow, wet, I am constantly getting stuck, and that is detrimental when I am in an emergency situation.
Can we use your current vehicle for anything, another department within the town?
I've talked to Dan about that. We've talked about trading it in for also a trade when we do this. Right now, my vehicle needs brand new tires, and I'm putting that off in hopes that I'm going to get approved for this because I really want to go with that expenditure. And also, I just think it'll be more of a detriment to the town. It does have low mileage, but again, if they're going to be using it in the winter and they have to go to certain places, I believe they're going to get stuck.
Having experience of a van years ago, all the weight is in the front, and therefore very easily to get stuck. You know, it's just the way they're constructed. So I can understand your issue on this one.
Absolutely.
Can I ask about the price though? And is there something about the vehicle that, 60,000 to me sounds high. I bought 2 commercial trucks last year, both 2,500 models, one a Chevy, one a GMC, and they were significantly less than 60. Is there some kind of
the additional monies is going to be for the additional work that we have to put into the truck, which the DPW will help me do, which is a rack on the back of the truck for dead animals. And then I also need to put a separator in the truck so that I can have animals to be put in the truck out of my safety, and then also for storage. So whatever extra monies that we do not use, that would be handed back over to free cash.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And the other thing about this vehicle also is that it's coming with 4-inch black assist steps, which is also going to be for my safety in slippery weather, because obviously 4-wheel drive is a little bit higher. But even with this van, if we were to put the assist steps on this van, that was going to cost an additional $1,000.
Thanks, Rebecca. Rebecca, do you know the actual sticker price on the vehicle?
The actual sticker price that came back from Liberty was 48 and change.
Okay.
And so going over the additional monies with Dan for the additional work that I would be doing with him, and with the radio and extra essentials that I do need on the vehicle. And again, whatever we don't use will be turned right back to free cash.
Okay. Thanks for the explanation.
Very welcome, because we generally put in an additional, it's a cage operation. And in the past, when I've gotten new vehicles, the DPW has installed that in there for me. So it's just a safety regulation. And also I have found that over the years and working with different departments, animal control departments, large animals don't like going into steel cages. They get frightened by that. And so it's a safety on my side, and it's a safety on the animal side to get them into an open area that they're not enclosed.
Right. Does anybody else have any questions for Rebecca?
This would be coming from free cash, just to throw that out there.
I'll make a motion to accept the article.
I'll second that.
Okay, Mike Boucher's in favor.
All
Gail
for,
Rodriguez,
yes. Sorry about Gail.
go ahead.
Buffer, yes.
Gail Rodriguez, yes.
Ron Melbourne, yes.
John Howcroft, yes.
Sue Delgado, yes.
Bob Sajid, yes.
I believe that's everyone. Motion passes without opposition.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your support.
You're welcome. On to Article number 10, to see if the town will vote to transfer from the golf course retained earnings fund a sum not to exceed $80,000 for the purpose of cart path work, replacement of leaking isolation shutoff valves, which is part of the irrigation system, additional sprinklers, replacement of a 14-year-old bunker rake, replacement of a 14-year-old grass leaf blower, replacement or leasing of a 14 9-year-old golf carts, and or other necessary and proper expenditures approved by the Golf Management Committee and the Board of Selectmen, or to take any other action relative thereto.
I'll make a motion to accept that one. Being on the golf course committee.
I'll second that.
I just ask a question. Sorry.
No, go right ahead, Sue.
Okay, so $80,000 coming from retained earnings. This is current year profits, Julie, or prior year profits?
Prior year profits.
Yeah, so this was prior year profits. Okay. Didn't we have something last year for golf that came out of, that was paid for outside of?
Yeah, they had an article last year, like in the 2019
Yep.
Town meeting. I think it was for 100,000. It was between 80 and 100,000. I can't remember off the top of my head. And they do have a small amount of that left that's carried forward. They also have $100,000 in a reserve fund, similar to the town's general reserve fund.
Yep.
They put money into their reserve fund, $100,000 every year that they haven't touched yet either. So yeah, so this would be in addition to the money that was carried forward from the old article and their reserve funds.
And so what's the purpose of, what is the reserve fund being earmarked for?
The reserve fund isn't earmarked for anything right now. It's just similar to the town. If there are unforeseen expenses, they're able to use that money without having to go to town meeting. It would be the selectmen and the finance committee approving a transfer.
Okay. And Bob, since you're on the golf committee, what sort of expenditures would you guys see as being warranting using that instead of, profits? When would you go to that instead of your retained earnings?
Well, the golf carts and the golf pass, we really need that. That saves a lot of money on the groundwork because you got people going across that, and for safety purposes, because last time I was out playing golf out there, some of the golf passes were really had big ruts in them and stuff, and very easy to bump somebody out of one of the golf carts. So
No, no disagreement that this needs to be done. I guess I'm just trying to understand what the golf committee would see as needing to. So I guess let me back up for a second, Julie. When there's excess in retained earnings, does the town ever get any of it?
No,
golf courses are separate.
Enterprise. Because they're an enterprise fund, any money they make stays with the enterprise fund.
So Julie, I just want to, so essentially the golf course retained earnings is essentially like a savings account for the golf course. And it comes from strictly user fees that are collected during the course of the golf season. And just so the viewers out there know who's watching or listening, this is not money that comes out of taxation. This is strictly from user fees. The golf course sustains itself.
Correct. Not one penny comes from taxation.
Correct.
So how does the golf committee decide how it's funding this request? Why is it coming from retained earnings and not from the reserve or not from the other surplus money you have? I guess that's a question for Bob.
I'll have to talk with the chairman of the committee.
Do you remember how you decided to do this?
We haven't had actual meetings, just the chairman and the selectmen have been meeting on this. The rest of the golf committee hasn't been involved in this for the last month or two.
Okay. No, I was just following up really on Sue's original question, which is,
I understand.
What's the difference?
So I guess at the end of the day, it doesn't really change whether it comes out of this reserve fund or whether it comes out of retained earnings. It's all still within the golf enterprise funds. So
correct.
I guess I think I was looking at it more from, maybe I misunderstood where the money came from last year for that article. So that didn't come out of the town.
Oh, no.
Last
year. No.
Okay, I'm at peace then.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Yeah, we had a motion in a second.
Oh, we had a motion in a second?
Yeah, we already
All
had a
right.
motion in a second.
Okay, Mike Boucher is a yes.
Sue Delgado's a yes.
All for a yes.
Ron Milborn, yes.
Gail
John
Rodriguez,
House.
yes.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Gail, go ahead.
Sorry, Gail Rodriguez, yes.
John Howcroft, yes.
Bob St. Jean, yes.
I think Ron answered, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right, so motion passes without opposition. Okay, on to Article 11. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds or otherwise provide the sums recommended or any other sum or sums for the capital improvement budget for the school as set forth in the following schedule and determine whether such sums will be provided by taxation or by transfer or by a combination thereof. So if everybody can see, there's a chart from the school department. So this pertains to a science curriculum, a reading curriculum, and a developmental reading assessment program. Each one has its own price. The science curriculum, the department request is $59,972. The reading curriculum is priced at $50,000, and the developmental reading assessment is priced at $15,750 for a total of $125,000, $125,722 altogether for this request. Now, on the last column where it says source of funds, it says free cash. So Julie, I'm assuming this would be all coming out of free cash?
Yes, this is all coming from free cash and
Not taxation.
no.
Okay.
And so this is one of the articles that was adjusted by the Board of Selectmen. You know, obviously we talked about at the beginning, we were about $100,000 short from the requests for free cash and what we had available for free cash. So this number was reduced slightly for the school. Ultimately, they took the majority of the reduction from the science curriculum. So we left reading curriculum at $50,000, the developmental reading assessments at the $15,750, and the selectmen lowered the science curriculum to $11,499 for a total of $77,249. And the schools, we've talked about this before, we opted with giving the full amount of the reading curriculum because they've just scored so low in reading over the past few years. They've been pushing for the reading specialist. I think they would have gotten it last year had COVID not happened. If you remember at their meeting, they, really pushed for adding that position in, and I think they had a lot of support from the selectmen and the finance committee. But then obviously when we had to make cuts due to COVID, that was a new position that ended up getting cut. So reading curriculum to the selectmen this morning seemed like the better option to fully fund with the free cash. The assessments were reading based as well and seemed very important. So the remainder of the money we had left over that we were able to give to science, we opted to give. So it slightly cut their science curriculum request, but hopefully they can make up for it with their own budget or save some of that for next year.
So Julie, just to go back, so what's the total again that we're funding out of free cash for this article?
So the total from this article will be $77,249.
Okay.
A question. Due to COVID and all the changes, in implementation of partial virtual, curriculum and everything, how will this integrate with what now doing due to this emergency?
So the school, when they talked earlier today, said obviously, a curriculum was a huge thing for them even before COVID. I think in their description, they said that they had no science curriculum for a lot of the classes. Reading obviously was struggling and old and outdated. And now with COVID, having the curriculum also means having, the digital software to go with the curriculum. With the hard texts, there's a lot of digital. And now with COVID, I think a lot of the programs have come out with better digital formats. Mm-hmm. So I think they would have looked for this anyway, but I think the timing is good with COVID that, they can take advantage of some new curriculum that will offer more digital availability.
To be honest with you guys, I'm not happy with this one. I don't like not fully funding that science program. When I start looking at some of the other things we've taken for free cash, and I feel like we're robbing our kids of the education they should be getting. I'm looking at, $110,000 for transferring from back to the sewer transfer from the school, and we're doing, I don't know, we got $600,000 in free cash, and we're cutting out the education for our kids. This is what I was talking about when we're looking at these things as a whole. I don't like this, cutting this one. I know the selectmen have already trimmed this one down, and it's maybe there might be more set in stone here, but I just don't, to me, I don't like it. It doesn't feel right to me. Sorry to say.
Well, if I can add into part of the discussion this morning was also over the timing of implementation. And obviously, if they get approved this, they're going to order stuff soon. But there's also, I think you'll probably know this too, Ron, having a school background. It's not just buying the books, then there's training for the teachers on the new curriculum, training the staff. There's a lot of other work before it can actually get unloaded. It's not as easy as just buying it and then using it. So I think the thought was also, we'll give them as much as we can right now. They did make a slight cut to the science, but hoping that maybe in the spring we'll be able to fund more of it. And again, the timing will work out where maybe they could have reading implemented and then science would be on its way anyway, because they can't implement everything at the same time. That was part of the discussion, at least this morning.
All right.
But Julie, what is, I'm sorry, if I heard correctly, there'd be like 17,000 to the science curriculum. What does that get you?
I know that for science, they had already started purchasing some of it with their operational budget. And they had certain grades that they had bought curriculum for. So their request was looking at funding, I believe it was K through 4. That wasn't included in their original purchase or what they had implemented so far. So they were just looking to try to fill in the rest of the void for the science program. So, I mean, I can't tell you exactly what it'll buy, but we figured we'd rather give them the extra money than put it into like stabilization or something. And again, hoping that maybe they could use it to maybe fill in one of the grades and get them closer to being able to fulfill the full need for the whole, K through 8.
Julie, what was the actual cost for that science thing? I know it was 59,000 something. What was the actual, what did they change it to?
I have it here. I do. Okay, so I'm just going to read it. She has a little blurb about science. She said, science, there's currently no science curriculum at the elementary school. The initial plan for the 2020 to 2021 school year was to purchase Amplify Science for kindergarten through 8th grade. This green-rated inquiry-based program will provide consistency of experience and the spiraling of curriculum that will reinforce and shore up the student learning experience. The available funds for this year provided us with the ability to purchase a limited curriculum for 5th through 8th grade with a purchase order of $27,165.53. We continue to need supplemental materials for 6th through 8th grade as well as a full curriculum for kindergarten through 4th grade. The total purchase order would be $59,972.90. This number was obtained by subtracting the amount purchased for the limited grades 5 to 8 curriculum, which is the $27,165.53, from the total purchase order for K to 8 of $87,148.43. So the total was $87,148.43. And they were able to purchase $27,000 worth so far.
So I guess
So
maybe
instead of 59,000, they're going to be using 27,165.
That's what they've used with their available funds this year. So I'm guessing with some operating money, they've been able to free up $27,165.53. And then with what the selectmen approved, they'd get another $11,499 towards
Okay.
that.
So maybe somebody with a school background can help me with this. When you say there's no curriculum, I mean, I know there's science teachers in all the grades. So what does it mean to say there's no curriculum?
That's a good question, Sue. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know either. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but all I know is I still don't like this one. I still don't like it.
Yeah. No, I hear you, Ron. I'm trying to wrap my arms around to make sure that I understand, what it means, because my daughter happens to be in 5th grade. She sits in Zooms with Mrs. Munier. So when you're telling me there's no science curriculum, I don't know what that means. I also know she just came from the elementary school. My understanding is there really isn't science in the grades, but there's a science specialty. So I guess I don't understand. Is it the materials that we're talking about? That's what we're buying? The books, the labs, for lack of a better word, I don't know what they call them.
Yeah.
So
my understanding is that you're buying the curriculum, which is the books and the workbooks and the digital software to go along with it. I think when they talk about curriculum and no curriculum, my understanding is you want to buy a full package from a company so that you already have it in order. It's already done out for you that kindergarten learns this through this, and then 1st grade starts from that point and learns to here, and it all kind of flows, and you already have a basis that you've built on, and it flows throughout the grades.
The curriculum coordinator is supposed to do too, the one that we hired last year.
Yeah, so
I'm struggling. I'm sorry, Julie. I'm struggling to comprehend. I hear everything you're telling me, and then I'm like immediately thinking, but that's the curriculum coordinator.
Yeah.
We've been told for 5 years that we absolutely need, because there's no continuity. But it sounds like the packages you buy kind of get us there too. So I'm getting.
Yeah. So the curriculum. So she actually, if you watch the meeting, I'm not sure what her title is. Carrie Stoffel is the quote unquote curriculum coordinator that was hired, and she's fantastic. So this is what she presented. Obviously, I'm sure if she had it her way, she would get the full science curriculum from K to 8, and that would resolve the problem. So it seems like they've focused on whatever grades were struggling the most with the curriculum, which I'm guessing is the, what did she say? The 5 to 8 is what they bought already. But then I think they chose this vendor, so they're planning to purchase the full curriculum from that vendor. I just think that, if they bought 5 to 8, now that's secure, but now K through 4 could be on somewhat of a different plan because they're on the old curriculum. So there may be loose ends that need to be connected. And I'm sure she's connecting them with the teachers right now as much as possible, but I don't think anything is as good a substitute as just being able to buy that curriculum to just fill it all in.
That naturally does the transition from year to year.
Exactly, yep.
And this would have been a good, Julie, this would have been a good article to have Kristen Flynn here.
She had a prior commitment tonight, so she wasn't able to come, but yeah, agreed. And or Carrie, again, she's fantastic. Watch the meeting if you can, and I'm sure they wouldn't mind taking requests if you guys call over and have questions for them directly. Carrie is just a very intelligent person, and she's just so knowledgeable with this. So I'm sure she would love to talk to any of you and explain a lot of this much better than I can. I'm certainly no expert, but that's my understanding.
So my assumption, though, with what is being presented here in the article as it's been amended is, it's the 77,000 as it's already been talked about, or not. So certainly I'm in favor of approving the 77. But you know, again, I'm just not happy with it being, we're gutting science to be, to pay for a transfer for a school pipe or a sewer pipe or something. But anyway, no, I'll make a motion to approve it. I just think that I hope that the schools come back to us, or we find a way to fund this thing, what they're looking for with this.
Ron, Ron, if I could just chime in, Ron, over the years, the Finance Committee has been very cooperative, and we've worked with the school department, in a very generous manner, in my opinion. And almost typically, there's always been some tough years, but they definitely certainly get what they need at the end of the day. So I don't necessarily think that throwing all kinds of money around necessarily makes a better product, so to speak. That being said, I think, what we're going to spend on this article is, I'm sure, necessary because it was discussed. And, I don't know if there's going to be other curriculum packages that we're going to have to purchase down the road for math or other subjects. That would be something good to know ahead of time.
I think, didn't last year's include a math curriculum?
Yeah, last year was math.
Now, Julie, are they gonna try and work this into their budget for the next time around?
Yeah, there was discussion about that earlier today as well. We'll definitely work on, this year was such a crazy year with the budgets, and I'm sure next year will be too, but we'll make sure that this is discussed in the budget process more. They had a few years ago done the math curriculum as an article, and so that's why they kept it this way. I think they had said that Brian had discussions with them and said he'd prefer it that way, so that's why they continued it. I don't have an issue with it either way, but I agree with you that we at least just want to know ahead of time, does your budget include the curriculum or does it not, so that we know when we're doing the warrant and coming up with the budget for every year.
Yes.
Does anybody know, I'm looking at my notes from when we had the school department budget originally, and granted this was kind of pre-COVID. They listed reading specialists at the middle school as a high priority, the special ed teacher. Do we know how much of these high priority items got implemented, if any?
Yeah, I'm sure they can tell you off the top of my head. I know, we really had to keep them to a 2% overall increase at the time, not knowing what was going to happen this year for the economy and our state cuts and everything. So getting them to a 2% cut meant that I know the reading specialist was their main concern, and they were not able to add that to their budget. I'm guessing the special ed wasn't either. If they would have had the choice, they would have done the reading specialist. And I know that everybody really pushed hard for that. No one was happy about having to cut that position. We all know how important it is, but at the end of the day, we had to make cuts and keep the budget to the 2%. And so I would imagine they would keep putting this on until we're able to fund it.
Thank you.
I would imagine you'll see that in their budget coming up for next year.
If there are no other questions, I believe we had a motion on this one already. Was there a motion on this one?
I think I made the motion. I don't.
I believe you did.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay. Mike Boucher, yes.
Gail Rodriguez, yes.
Bob Ferry, yes.
Ron Melbourne, yes.
John Howcroft, yes.
Sue Delgado, yes.
Bob St. Jean, yes.
Okay, I think that's everybody. The motion passes without opposition. Okay, I believe we have 4 articles left. Number 12 is to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds or otherwise provide a sum of $100,000 to be added to the OPEB fund as established in accordance with the provisions of Massachusetts general law, Chapter 32B, Section 20, and as amended by the Municipal Modernization Act, Chapter 218 of the Acts of 2016, or to take any other action relative thereto.
So this is the other article that was reduced by the Board of Selectmen, and it was reduced to $50,000. This will be coming from free cash. And, you know, the selectmen felt it was important to put on here. We've talked about OPEB so much in the past, and in the spring it was hard to put on. We had to cut a lot of articles that we would otherwise put on, but now seeing where we have the funding to be able to do this, this is really something that we want to commit to every year. We have, you know, financial policies that say we're trying to commit to funding it every year. I think it's fine if, you know, we can't fund it to the extent that we have in previous years with the 100,000. But putting something in is more important than the amount necessarily, especially during, you know, an economic downturn. Putting 50,000 in will still be highly favored by any of the credit rating agencies. And it's also really good for our financial statements, so.
Agreed.
Motion to accept.
Second. Mike Boucher, yes.
Gail
Bob Curry,
Rodriguez,
yes.
yes.
Bob Curry, yes.
John Howcroft, yes.
Ron Melbourne, yes.
Sue Delgado, yes.
Bob St. Jean, yes.
Okay, I think that's everybody. Motion passes without opposition. Okay, the next three articles are all coming from the CPA. Number 13 is to see if the town will vote to transfer and appropriate the sum of $10,000 from the undesignated fund balance of the Community Preservation Act funds account and/or FY21 budgeted reserves of the Community Preservation Act funds for the purpose of purchasing improvements and funding repairs to recreational equipment at the Pope Park Playground located at 96 Pope Street, or to take any other action relative thereto.
It's Bob St. Jean. I'll make a motion to accept.
Second.
Mike Boucher is a yes.
Gail, yes.
Bob Curry, yes.
Ron Melbourne, yes.
John Howcroft, yes.
Delgado, yes.
Bob St. Jean, yes.
A motion passes without opposition. Number 14, to see if the town will vote to transfer and appropriate the sum of $75,000 from the undesignated fund balance of the Community Preservation Act funds account and/or the FY21 budgeted reserves of the Community Preservation Act funds for the purpose of improvements and cleaning efforts in the Lake Street, lakes and adjacent recreational grounds located on Lake Street, or to take any other action relative thereto.
Julie, do you know what the 75,000 would cover? Like, what exactly is this going to do for us?
Yeah, so the Lake Street Committee is up and running, where they've been pretty dormant lately. I know Selectman Wonar has been doing a lot of work with the committee. We allowed $5,000, it's a little under $5,000 from the current budget to be spent on testing of the lake. And so we have a company that's doing that work now. And once they get the results, this money would be used based on whatever, you know, testing results come back, it would be used for the remediation of the lake. And I know that they also have a grant that they've applied for that would be in conjunction with these funds. Because I think, if I'm remembering correctly off the top of my head, the estimated cost is probably close to 150,000. So they're hoping to get 75 from CPC funds, and then the additional money from the grant.
Just to remind people, this was part of the master plan of 2000, this endeavor. So it's taken 20 years to come at near fruition. I've got the master plan in front of me, and it's following what what they recommended was basically to, you know, if you did something with the old reservoir on the beach, you know, especially what they're talking about, it would require a study to document all contributing pollution sources. So I think, you know, I was going to ask that question as far as, you know, just, you know, the testing to find all pollution sources, then begin to, you know, remediate the, you know, the sources of that. And I'm sure it's going to open up some other endeavors in the future, because it's a very, you know, complex issue. And secondly of all, I wish you would expand it to look at other parts, like, you know, temporary, you know, flooding, you know, with higher rainfall, you know, and all other, and whether they need improved with probably funding, you know, from grants, maybe improving septic systems in the area, whatever the study and the sources of the pollution lead us to. So I just want to remind for that was part of the 2000 master plan.
Yep, and they'll definitely be looking at those other.
It's supposed to be 5 years. It's supposed to be 5 years done in 5 years.
Mhm. But to your point, you know, all the other impacts in that area, I think this is a good start. And those issues that you brought up will all be addressed in the new master plan. And there are lots of grants related to climate change and, you know, everything you just mentioned with the septic systems and the flooding. Those are all relevant for those grants. You know, we're working right now on the MVP planning grant as well. And so there's just a lot of opportunity. I think this is a good starting point to get a sense of the area and what issues there are, and work at remediating some of those issues. And then secondary would be, you know, taking it from there and looking at these other grant opportunities. But I agree with you, John.
And also another point is there are farms in the area. Some of them probably use the, you know, either the river water or the lake water itself for irrigation. And there are new regulations, you know, with the Food and Drug Administration under the Department of Agriculture, as far as the you know, the quality of the water being used. And so this falls in line to a lot of other things, you know, necessities of having this this done. So just want to add that on to how imperative this is, and how it should be maybe in the future even expanded under, you know, rather under this present scope of services.
Thanks, John. So does anybody have any other further discussion with this article?
Bob St. Jean, I know that the Mr. Wonar and the committee has been very active lately. I mean, I've seen them down there on a number of occasions, you know, doing the work that they have to do. So I know there's a lot of interest in that. There's a lot of interest from the community at large at improving that situation. And I think it'd be well served to recommend this article.
Agreed. I think it's a good thing for the town and the residents who utilize Lake Street.
Also, another thought. We know, like, again, with climate change, changing temperature, the amount of potential, you know, viruses with mosquitoes and other insects, you know, and thrive in warm, stagnant water that has high nitrate contents. So therefore, it well serves the health of the whole community. So that's why, you know, you know, this is another reason why it's more than just serving, you know, the recreational needs of which are very important, especially with the changing times that we now face. Recreation is going to become a number one type of you know, to promote good mental health. But also this is essential to the health of all our residents, really.
Good point. make a motion to approve this article. Bob St. Jean.
Second it. Mike Boucher, yes.
Gail, yes.
Bob Ferrari, yes.
Ron Melbourne, yes.
John Howcroft, yes.
Delgado, yes.
Bob St. Jean, yes.
The motion passes without opposition. Last article of the night, number 15, to see if the town will vote to transfer and appropriate the sum of $5,000 from the undesignated fund balance of the Community Preservation Act funds account and/or the FY21 budgeted reserves of the Community Preservation Act funds for the purpose of improvements and cleaning efforts at the Acushnet Riverview Park located on River Street, or to take any other action relative thereto.
Don't the Coalition for Buzzards Bay run that?
No.
They're very active in the area. I'll add to this that
That was turned over to them, wasn't it?
No.
the area, well, not the park. I know that they do. There might be another piece of land over there that they own. But the park is the town's. And so this is kind of brought about because we recently received the Shared Streets and Spaces grant for a little under $13,000. The DPW worked really hard to get this done quickly. So they added a bike path / walking trail that goes along River Street, along the river on River Street, and it cuts through and actually leads all the way out to Main Street. We actually have a ribbon cutting ceremony tomorrow morning, hoping that the rain holds off a little bit for us. But to thank, all the governor and the Mass DOT District 5 for giving us the opportunity to do the upgrade there. So if anyone's around tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, we'll be having a nice little ribbon cutting ceremony. But, in looking to improve the area, this is another great space in Acushnet on the river. The EPA has done a lot of work from the Superfund cleanup to clean up the river. In that area, we also have right where the Riverview Park is located, there's a stormwater outfall that we're looking at getting a grant from Buzzards Bay to do a cleanup of it. And that would also include adding to the walking area over the outfall. So there's just a lot of work to improve that area. And it's beautiful. So the money from CPA would help make the area more recreational for people who want to take advantage of it. I think there have been more people who are, canoeing in the water. And I think the ultimate hope is to, kind of bridge the gap between the sawmill and then that area. So, people can kind of use the water along there. But if they're looking for just $5,000 to kind of continue the upgrades that they've done already, and I'm sure you're going to see a lot more coming from that area in the future as well.
My wife and I were walking through there today. We took the dogs for a walk through there today. It's really nice out there.
Oh, good. Yeah, the
They
DPW
did a wonderful job.
I'll make a motion to accept the article.
Second.
Okay, Mike Boucher, yes.
Gail Rodriguez, yes.
Bob Ferrari, yes.
Ron
John
Melbourne,
Howcroft, yes.
Delgado, yes.
Bob St. Jean, yes.
Okay, motion passes without opposition.
Yeah, Mr. I just want to add
Oh,
one
I'm sorry, John.
little comment, on this, not on this issue, but if you read Frank Howland's book, History of Acushnet, that same area was the site of the town's whipping post. So maybe someone can suggest that. They cut the river.
You want to reinstate that, John? Is that your point? Huh?
I think John's volunteering to be the first victim then.
Okay, so that concludes all the articles for the evening. Next on the agenda is an update, a status and updates on the CARES and FEMA grants. So I believe, Julie, you got that?
I think Mel's gonna talk, but she's on mute.
Oh,
I'm one of those. Yeah, that's been my baby. Myself and Nick have been working really hard. We did get our first round in from CARES for 187,000. We're still waiting for FEMA. FEMA can take a lot longer. Unfortunately, that's the chunk of the money we're waiting for since they cover 75%. But we are submitting the tomorrow, and as of right now, we have another 500 that we're submitting, and about 135 of that will be CARES and the rest will be FEMA. Because if it's certain parts, CARES does do 100, but that's only technology. Majority of it is only 25. Our concern is we're not 100% sure what FEMA will cover, nor is anybody. Things are changing every day. So we are concerned, do we leave a buffer just in case the FEMA won't cover it and we need to go back to CARES? So we will have another round after this, but we want to utilize everything we can, but at the same time, we don't want to overexpend and be in trouble at the end. So right now we were approved for over 900. So we still definitely have a huge buffer to play with. And as we get more information from FEMA, we're definitely, Julie and the Board of Selectmen are the ones approving any big projects or purchases. It has to go through them before it comes to us. So that we're all definitely aware of any big projects happening. So if anyone has questions.
Sorry, I think I missed the last meeting, so maybe some of this was already covered, but what are we doing with that 900? I'm guessing that's where the devices that the kids go through to test to get their fever, their temperatures checked. That's what we're spending the money on?
Yeah, like 150, Fire got approved for 150 for testing, because I'm not sure if you're aware, but there's been a lot of testing that he's doing for the town weekly and also for the employees. So there's a big chunk of that, but the school is got approved for 350 for this round from after the first round, because obviously they need to be protected also. So those are probably the two biggest projects that we have right now going on. The elections is a big thing that just started because they have so many extra charges right now, expenditures that's happened since all this is going on. I don't know, Julie, am I missing any of the big projects? I think that was probably it.
In the first round, the school had Chromebooks. That was a big,
yes,
150,000 for Chromebooks to get.
Sorry, what New Bedford has this digital, it's gonna come to me.
The testing thing?
No, it's not testing. It is apparently all of the New Bedford schools already have this and our schools do not. So it's to project the work. It's so that way the kids who are remote can actually see what's happening at schools.
Mm-hmm. So like Melissa said, the Board of Selectmen, because we're already managing a lot of projects of our own. We didn't want to have to micromanage the schools in their usage of the funds because they have so many different things going on. So they authorized a blanket $350,000 for the school to spend for whatever it needs. So Melissa, I don't know if you know anything that they've used from the 350 yet, but they could look at things like that in that 350. Do you know, Melissa?
They were at 125, but we recently just got invoices from them yesterday. So that's why I'm waiting till last minute to submit this second round, because I'm trying to enter every possible thing that I can. We definitely but in this round, there was nothing huge. So even if we say 130, they still have a lot to play with.
But the school, the schools could certainly look at that. I'm not sure how much it costs. And like Melissa said too, all of the things that have been approved to date, the schools were approved for a chunk of 350,000 outside of the first round, where they had I think they had like 180,000 between the Chromebooks and other expenses. And with the projects that the town has been approved for so far, we still have like $130,000 buffer that hasn't been approved yet because the money can be spent through the end of the calendar year. And, you know, we're getting close to that point. There's still 2 months left, so we wanted to leave a buffer in case something comes up, but we also don't want to leave any money on the table at the end of the year and not have gotten it. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure the schools could consider that. They're looking at a lot of things, so I'm sure that's something that they've looked at and could potentially be purchasing.
Was the town eligible for the PPP loans? I don't remember if
No.
institutions were eligible for them. They're not?
No.
Could any of this money, this grant money, be used to help? Because I know the school department pulled people who were, say, reading specialists or reading, whatever the right terminology is, I always screw it up and get corrected, and pulled them into classrooms to you know, because we increased the kindergarten and first grade. Could any of that be used to cover salaries for, say, a kindergarten, first grade teacher, so that way these reading specialists could go back to what they need to?
Yeah, so this, oh, sorry.
No, just say school do have, they did receive 2 separate grants, a school reopening grant and an ESSER grant. And one, I know that it's for, like, they do have one for salaries and they have one for custodians. So they're definitely utilizing that, Jules, but I don't know what it's specific, what teachers it's for.
So they added more custodians, and they added, I think, 4 long-term subs, 2 for each school, so that they could help cover classes if teachers were out. They are eligible to use CARES, any of the CARES money really, for any expenses that weren't budgeted for.
Yeah.
You know, like they can't say like, oh, we have this thing that we needed anyway, we're going to use it. If, I mean, I guess if you got audited and they would say like, hey, you already had this in the works, you can't use CARES money for it. So certainly adding new teachers, the one, you know, kind of issue with adding teachers with this one-time source of funds is, you know, you're on the hook for a lot of stuff if it's a temporary person. You know, in terms of like benefits and unemployment and retirement, if it's a temporary thing. So we've definitely taken caution with using the one-time funds from CARES to hire people, but you can't avoid it sometimes. So I know custodians, obviously they need to keep the buildings clean, and that's a huge thing that they've been working at. So they hired more custodians, and then the long-term subs to try to help keep a teacher presence, even if a teacher has to be out for some reason. But yeah, I mean, they do have the potential to use it if they need more teachers or more paras. They can certainly use it for that purpose.
Just thinking about the kids that needed the services, who are not getting the services because those individuals got pulled. We're just, the reading issue is just getting exacerbated here.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, the money that we received, you know, for CARES, we were pre-approved for like $930,000, which seems like a lot of money until you have all these things that you need to spend it on, and it goes really quick, and it actually doesn't take you that far. So yeah, it's been hard. The schools definitely had to make a lot of difficult decisions with what they want to use the money for and how they can expend it. I guess I'll add to the last thing that was just approved by the Board of Selectmen for the town side. Melissa mentioned the testing, which has been a huge initiative for the town, but the chief was authorized to purchase a trailer, and we're buying it. It's the URI trailer that they weren't able to use, and we're repurposing it for Acushnet mobile testing. And I'm sure once there's a vaccine, it could be used for vaccines. It's something that we could use for EMA purposes or flu clinics going forward. But it's a really helpful tool that we're going to have now. It's still in the works of being purchased, but we should have it soon. And I know it'll make a big difference for the fire and EMS staff who have been testing like crazy, and you know, there for every Acushnet resident if needed. They've been providing free testing. I wish I could remember the number off the top of my head right now, but I want to say the chief had over 1,000 of just the nasal swab
Yeah.
tests in October.
Yeah, that's
they
the number
did.
he said.
Yeah, so.
And I have to ask the question, do we have a vehicle to tow this trailer, or we're gonna need to buy one?
No, we have many vehicles we can use
Okay.
for it. Mhm.
Okay.
All right, thanks for the discussion on that, Julie and Melissa, on the CARES and the FEMA grants. Next on the agenda, we have some minutes to approve from two meetings, one on June 3rd and one on July 15th. Both of those were remote meetings. On the June 3rd meeting, in attendance at that meeting was Robert St. Jean, myself, Michael Boucher, Sue Delgado, Robert Ferrera, John Howcroft, and Ron Melbourne.
Make a motion to approve.
I second that.
Mike Boucher is a yes.
Paul Ferry, yes.
John Howcroft, yes.
Ron Melbourne, yes.
Sue Delgado, yes.
Bob St. Jean, yes.
Okay, motion approved without opposition. The July 15th meeting, in attendance, Robert St. Jean, myself, Michael Boucher, Sue Delgado, Robert Ferrera, John Howcroft, and Ron Melbourne.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Okay, Mike Boucher is a yes.
Paul Ferry, yes.
Ron Melbourne, yes.
Sue Delgado, yes.
Bob St. Jean, yes.
Okay, I think that's everybody. Motion passes without opposition. Next on the agenda, anybody have any old business to discuss? Anybody have any new business? Well, I guess on the new business side, we do have a new finance committee member. She's been with us in the past, Gail Rodriguez. So welcome back.
Thank you.
You'll be a good addition to the committee.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you're gonna have fun.
Yeah, it used to be fun, I remember. Thank you.
Okay. So Mr. St. Jean, I believe we will not be meeting again until we have the actual special town meeting. Is that correct?
As far as I know, yes, unless there's other, business that needs to be addressed.
Okay.
At that point, I'm sure we'll hear from Julie or the selectman.
Yeah, and just to mention, correct me if I'm wrong, the special town meeting is on Saturday, November 14th.
Yep, Saturday, November 14th at 10 a.m. at the schools, where we usually have it. We'll have masks as mandatory again. It'll be very similar to the June meeting. Masks, socially distant, sanitizer everywhere. The COVID.
Yeah.
The COVID town meeting.
Yeah. So someday we're all going to meet in person again.
I know.
That's crazy.
It's coming soon. It's coming soon.
Hopefully. Dr. Boucher, are you going to be able to handle that meeting?
Of course. No problem.
Okay.
All right. You got it, Bob. Anything. I'll help you out any way I can.
Thank you very much.
You got it. So if there's no other matters to discuss, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So
Motion
moved.
to adjourn. Oh, second then.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, meeting is adjourned. See everybody in a couple weeks.
Okay.
Thank you.
All
Stay
right.
safe, everybody.
Okay.
You too.
Bye.